Okay, everybody, we're here. One more to go after this, and the next one comes out 4 days before my birthday, so can't wait. Terms for the new Zent. Hold on, let me just make sure that this is recording. Dang it. If this is recording my audio, good. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. I don't want to get through this and then have to redo it. Terms of the new Zent. Once we finished lunch, which was made all the better by reports about the current state of affairs, the attendants brought us tea and some desserts. Then our retainers took their leave. The discussion we were about to have concerned matters far too sensitive for their ears, and we could always contact them by ordinance if necessary. In no time at all, the population of our meeting was a mere fraction of what it had been before. I gazed around the quiet tea party room and slowly inhaled. Now, let us discuss who shall take the throne, I said. As you already know, Mestinor descended into my body on the day of the fighting. Both she and de Wehrman made it clear that they want a true Zent to rule as soon as... Then get far to the Grudershite. Can you let her finish talking first instead of interrupting, dude? Prince Sigiswald, the Dolphine, interjected. You mustn't interrupt those who rank above you. Thank you! And it's funny that she said rank above you to the first prince, too. Well, technically the oldest prince, I should say, but whatever, you get what I'm saying. This is insane. And this is Rosemine we're talking about here. The first prince's eyes widened in shock. He must never have encountered someone with a higher status than himself and his father. Yeah, this is nuts. He seemed to notice that everyone was looking at him because he sat bolt upright, apologized to me, and made a gesture urging me to continue. The gods want a Zent who can die Jürgen Schmidt's foundation, I said. It seems the royal family has been supplying not the true foundation, but something else, and the country will soon run out of mana and collapse. Really? What have they been supplying this whole time? The royals all gasped, their eyes wide open. Only now were they learning that the foundation they had desperately channeled their mana into for so long was meant... Hold on. Was meant for something else. Well, what is it? That said, the place you supplied is not completely disconnected from the foundation, I explained. The replenishment hall in the Sovereignty's palace is connected to the prayer hall in the Sovereign Temple, and a certain magic tool inside prayer hall connects to the Royal Academy's replenishment hall. From there, mana travels to the foundation. The magic tool that transports mana requires mana to be used. So some portion of yours has reached the core foundation, just not nearly enough to actually support the country. Too much mana was lost before... God damn it. Before it reached Jürgen Schmidt's foundational magic in the Royal Academy. Some had made it, but that knowledge came as little solace to the exhausted royals. Then it is all the more crucial that the Grudershite be... Can you let her finish, please? And then y'all can discuss this? Indeed, a new Zent must be chosen post-haste. Please understand, however, that whoever takes the throne will need to accede to the gods' demands. The gods' demands, Anastasius repeated. I nodded and everyone sat up straighter than ever. It was nice that they were taking things seriously, but I couldn't help feeling that I was deceiving them. These were technically Ferdinand's demands, as he no doubt interpreted the gods' words in whatever way was most convenient to him. First, I said, the foundation must be filled as quickly as possible. Second, the Lanzanovians with mana must be accepted into Jürgen Schmidt. And essentially cut off from Lanzanov, because we don't need another issue like this again. Or at least, you know, whatever. We'll see what happens. Third, no lives are to be taken as punishment for this rebellion. And fourth, the Zents to follow must be candidates who obtain Mestinor's wisdom through their own power. That about sums it up. Torokol stared at me in shock. I can understand... Hang on. Stupid. Where'd my mouse go? There we go. I can understand needing to fill the foundation, but the Lanzanovians are criminals who invaded our country, he spat. None of the duchies would accept them as nobles, not even by Mestinor's command. He shook his head. We must accept them into Jürgen Schmidt, but we are under no obligation to treat them like nobles. And how should we treat them? I was told some of them have staffs. They did not attend the Royal Academy and instead obtained them by manipulating Prince Hildebrand. We need only steal their staffs as we have done with the prince. From there, they can be chained up in cells and drained of mana, or perhaps turned into sovereign priests and shrine maidens so they can supply Jürgen Schmidt directly. Neither the goddess nor a wereman specified how they were to be treated. Sick of being used as mana batteries, Lanzanov's royals had invaded Jurgenschmidt in the hope of acquiring their freedom. Their failure would see them doomed to the same fate once again. It was tragically ironic, and I genuinely felt bad for them, but I saw no reason to speak up and protest. The Lanzanovians had sown the seeds of their own demise, and their fate was nothing compared to that of the Ahrensbach nobles who were brutally murdered overnight. Besides, all Jurgenschmidt nobles dedicated mana to the land in one form or another. What more could our enemies expect? So you would propose keeping them alive and taking their mana? Sigiswald asked. His face is clouded with concern. Jurgenschmidt needs as much as it can get, but I worry that it will breed an entire generation of resentment. I agree, Eglantine added. This feels too dangerous. They are probably so apprehensive because royals and top-ranking duchies were taught that mass executions were normal and the proper way of dealing with such problems, but I couldn't see where they were coming from. I understand that purges are meant to stop resentment from seeping into the future. But was it not a purge that led to the royal family losing the Gruterscheid and Jurgenschmidt being thrust into a mana crisis, I asked. You cannot throw aside so many lives and so much knowledge without consequences. There is still resentment festering within the deposed duchies and those on the losing side, and executing those who were guilty only by association created more resentment than erased. If you think taking even more lives will solve the problem, then I really am tempted to laugh. The royals froze. They hadn't been joking and wanted to perform yet another mass execution. I was so glad the goddess of wisdom had forbidden the taking of any more lives. Yeah, because Rosamund really didn't like doing it anyway. The royal family is to blame for Jurgenschmidt being in such grave danger, I continued. That must be clear to you by now. Unless none of you see the error of your ways, in which case I am quite frankly aghast. They averted their gazes. I could see Sylvester gawking in terror out of the corner of my eye. It seemed unwise for an Ob to be expressing his emotions so openly during a meeting like this. He should have been more dignified and exuding more authority. Says the girl who wears her heart on her sleeves. Though our perspectives on this matter are not the same, I said. I respect how much work the royal family has put into maintaining Jurgenschmidt despite lacking the Gruterscheid. I wanted to grant the book to one of you to make the transition of power as peaceful as can be. But as Ferdinand warned, I placed a troubled hand on my cheek. Hang on, damn it. I don't know what the fuck is going on with my mouse. I am growing somewhat uneasy. Jurgenschmidt's current political system is a distorted travesty. We swore to Wehrman that we would use this opportunity to restore the old ways. We hadn't made a formal declaration, but I didn't think I was lying to anyone. Wehrman wanted more Zent candidates to obtain the Book of Messinora, and Ferdinand declared that he intended to help. The old ways... Everyone looked unsure about what I meant, everyone except Ferdinand, who had written the script I was reading from. I inspected the room and declared what was expected from the new Zent. Indeed, the royal family must be abolished, and Zents shall no longer be chosen hereditarily. Candidates will need to obtain the Book of Messinora themselves. The blood drained from Sigiswald's face. Adolphine, his first wife, was already wearing a look of resignation. Wait. Adolphine's his first wife, correct? That was already established in a past book, I think. But they haven't consummated their marriage yet because his second wife is currently dealing with their child. I continued, the Sovereign Temple will return to the Royal Academy, which was, and always has been, Jurgenschmidt's holy land. And the Zent shall once again serve as the Sovereign High Bishop. They will dedicate themselves to reviving old rituals and fill the country with mana. None of you take issue, assume. There was a time when you all discussed having me become the Sovereign High Bishop. Several of the royals had turned ghostly white. Sylvester and Florencia, meanwhile, looked like their souls had left their bodies. They wore vague smiles and stared into empty space, having given up on and getting involved with the conversation. Yeah, just be there, essentially. In line with these changes, the royal palace and its villas will be sealed, and the Zent's family will move to the Royal Academy. The palace and its villas were built by a Zent who feared assassination and wanted to escape their political enemies to preserve their newly founded dynasty. Under the new system, the Zent will not live off of the sovereignty's central district. Instead, they will receive taxes gathered from all the duchies. All support themselves in the same manner. And if the Zent finds themselves in need of more funds, they can earn more money through their own endeavors. Rosemine, Ferdinand warned, careful girl, you're kind of getting off script here. Oops, I might have strayed from the script a little. Still, I think this is a good opportunity for nobles and top-ranking duchesses to start thinking about earning their own money. Thus, the new Zent will need to live in a way that completely shatters the concept of the royal family constructed across recent generations. Do any of you volunteer for the role? The royals exchanged glances. Though the person who received the Gujashite would become the new Zent, they would not live as they were all used to. They were apprehensive about putting themselves forward. If one of you volunteers, I noted, we shall conceal the royal family's misdeeds so your role goes unfettered, and ensure that all royals, except the Zent and their family, become the obs of previously deposed duchies. So essentially, whoever doesn't take the role, the person who doesn't, let's say, for example, Anastasius takes the role, for example. His wife and their kid will stay with him, obviously, and help him with all that. But everybody else, Trollcall, Sigiswald, who else? And Hildebrand eventually will become obs for the old duchies, like work stock and stuff. So, yeah. Otherwise, we will publish your actions and spread them throughout the country until the other duchies agree to dissolve the royal family. We shall make Ob Dunkelfelger an interim Zent and embroider his contributions to the war to make him a hero. As the royal family sat in silence, too stunned to even speak, I felt a slap on my... Hey! No touchy! Unlike the High Ferdinand was wearing the same radiant smile that told me he was furious. Rose mine, he said, your explanation was painfully lacking. In what seemed like the blink of an eye, Ferdinand had gone from scolding me for saying too much to chastising me for not saying enough. I couldn't win! Well, just stick to the script, dude. And I'm guessing if they need further clarification, I guess Ferdinand would take a lead on that one. Nonetheless, I was committed to acting like a goddess, and it seemed very much in character for the divine avatar of Messinor to distribute published goods across the country. I mean, yeah, considering the goddess of wisdom, wouldn't you want to send out your wisdom across the world? Wouldn't that be good to do it in book form? Oh my, but using printed goods to manipulate the public is the most basic of basic strategies. I would also consider it a fine opportunity to spread awareness of the printing industry. Is it not a fitting approach for me to take as an avatar of the goddess of wisdom? I already commissioned the author of a Ditter story to write a new book capturing Dunkelfelger's heroics during the war. Come again? Ob Dunkelfelger exclaimed. We are the protagonists of the next volume? We must buy up all the copies. You don't have to buy all the copies, dude! Just buy the ones enough for your family for the moment. And then if they need to make more, they can make more. To what end? Segonde asked, wearing the same look of exasperation I normally saw from Ferdinand. The books are meant to inform the public. The world would surely end if you were given power, Ferdinand muttered to me with a glare before turning his attention to the royals. Yeah. As you fear, if someone outside your family becomes the new Zent, the public will resent you for not being able to forestall a foreign invasion. To prevent the dissatisfied... Damn it! What's wrong with my mouse? Dissatisfied... Maybe I'm hitting it too hard, I don't know. Dissatisfied nobles from rising up and plunging the country into another civil war, we will need to relegate you all to an ivory tower. You can rest assured, though, as per our promise with the gods, not a single criminal will face execution. Oh, Ferdinand spoke with an evil smile that made his true meaning clear. He would spare their lives, but do nothing to make them enjoyable. The royals paled, so I rushed to clarify. I certainly didn't intend for them to be tortured. As this is only to avoid a civil war, we can guarantee that those who did not commit any crimes will continue to live prosperously. I even spoke with Ferdinand and managed to secure some nice perks for anyone who ends up in an ivory tower. 2 meals a day and an entire book to read. This is for... That sounds like something you would want, girl. A cold silence fell over the room. What? Why are they... Because that is something you would like, not what they would like. Duh. Why are they rejoicing? I worked so hard to negotiate for their sake. You're stupid, girl. You might be smart when it comes to a bunch of stuff, but with this and social cues that you... When it comes to books, not everybody is a fan of books like you are. The royals weren't the only ones muttering in disbelief. Those from Ehrenfest and Dunkelfelger seemed to be just as taken aback. They must not have cared about getting books in prison, yeah. It's because you don't read that you all understand so little about ancient language. You get what you deserve. Amid the awkwardness, Eglantine placed a hand on her cheek and looked at Ferdinand and me. Lady Rosemine, might I ask a question? Yes, very well. You can each receive 2 books. No. I remember it came up during one of our previous discussions that performing dedication morals en masse and selecting Zent candidates from other duchies would cause chaos. Yet here you are proposing that future Zents be chosen from outside the royal family. Is that not contradictory? I wish to know how this will work. This will not simply bring about more disputes in the future. Eglatine's question didn't surprise me. She despised war above all else. Ferdinand had predicted what she would ask and prepared a response from me, so I mentally repeated what we had discussed during our preliminary meeting. Even now, I consider it best for someone among the royal family to become the next Zent. I would rather we avoid disputes where we can, but more than a year has passed since the means to obtain the Gruchite was unearthed, and even now, not a single one of you has acquired it. Ferdinand, why are you glaring at her? This is the truth. Ferdinand glared at me. I get it, okay? Eglantine is the closest to the Gruchite since he was born with all the elements. Saying it outright just feels mean, though. Besides, everyone understood without me having to say it. I returned my focus to Eglantine and gestured for her to respond. No, we have not, she said, but only because we agreed that Zent would adopt you. We were going to obtain it through you. In other words, Ferdinand interjected, you plan to have someone outside the royal family obtain the Gruchite. This is exactly what they were talking about. Back then, I really did think it best for the royal family to secure it. But never in my wildest dreams had it entered my head that you were also lazy, greedy, and selfish. Oh dear, this might not go well. Excuse me? Sylvester exclaimed, snapping out of the stupor my rampage had inspired. Ferdinand? What are you doing? Ferdinand merely smiled and continued. The script he'd written for me had sounded provocative enough, but his remarks were just plain hostile. Gone was his surface-level politeness. He was treating the reals like incompetent fools. Oh, the mask is gone! I couldn't help but blink in surprise. I had conveyed what was necessary for the royal family to obtain the Gruchite without causing discord. I also accepted the royal decree to go to Arensbach to prove I did not intend to incite a rebellion. And yet... Ferdinand paused, and a broad smile spread across his face. Even with all the information I provided, all of you decided to claim the Gruchite through Rosemine rather than acquire it yourselves. She had promised to defend Ehrenfest in my stead only for you to force her into a nightmarish engagement for the sake of adopting her. King Troracle, can you imagine how I felt upon hearing that? I agreed to leave Ehrenfest to protect it, but you put the entire duchy in danger in my absence. Yeah, you should have just let Ferdinand stay there in Ehrenfest. Or at the very least, gotten Rosemine to show you guys how to get the Gruchite. That's what you should have done. And then you guys could have all tried to get it yourselves. But no, you didn't do that. Take a moment to consider... Dang it. To consider my reaction. Ferdinand was focused not on Eglantine, who had asked the question to begin with, but on Troraqual. The king hung his head, his lips pressed tightly together. Lord Ferdinand, Magdalena interjected. Even under those circumstances, you're being far too rude. You sit before the Zent. Yeah, and he's not doing a very good job of this. Troraqual shook his head. You may not know this, Magdalena, as you are excluded from socializing, but I really have demanded a lot from this man. Yeah. You have. Then I spoke out of turn, my apologies. King Troraqual, might I ask what those demands were? Sylvester inquired, having been denied entrance to that fateful meeting. Oh, no, you don't want to know this! Oh, man, he's going to find out that Troraqual had ordered him that he either go to Arensbach or kill his brother. He's not going to like that. As his elder brother of Ehrenfest, I think I have the right to know. The king looked at Ferdinand, engaged in some kind of mental debate, then slowly shook his head. In return for accepting my demands, Lord Ferdinand asked that I never repeat them. Oh. I do not intend to violate that now. I shan't anger him or the divine avatar of Messinora more than I already have. Yeah, because if she knew what the demands were, then, well, she might not be too happy. And she's already radiating the divine mana, so, yeah, that'd probably go out of control. And I don't even know if Ferdinand would be able to stop her. Ferdinand nodded, looking somewhat relieved. Thank God. To answer your question, Lady Eglantine, I think some internal disputes are preferable to the royals continuing to sit on their hands as the country crumbles around them, knowing full well how to obtain the Grucheshite. I see. That said, if you would rather preserve the royal family's claim to the throne, there are some methods you could use. The Ascendance could simply ensure their children obtain more complete books of Messinora than any of the other candidates. In other words, the royals could actually start putting in the work. Eglantine daintily and quizzically cocked her head. I would consider it best for the royal family to strive to produce future Zents, I said, though I intend to fix Jurgen Schmidt's distorted government and publicize how to obtain the Book of Messinora. Members of the former royal family will need not vanish from the stage. Could you elaborate on what you mean by distorted government, Ferdinand asked, prompting me to continue. Is that part of the script, or is she going off script again? I think it's part of the script, just to make it seem like he doesn't know what she's going to say, essentially. I explained how Zents across history had slowly warped the process of ascending to the throne. The royals must not have known in the slightest. The palace's library contained only the documents their forebears had taken with them when they first moved away from the Holy Land. Sigiswald looked as though he'd just been struck by lightning, but he quickly returned to his senses. O Avatar of Messinora, I understand now that the gods wish to dismantle the royal family. It would be my honor to become the next Zent and revive the old ways as per the wishes of the divine. Really? Dude. Are you even up to this, though? Ferdinand raised an eyebrow. Anastasius gave the first prince a look of concern. Brother, People all across the country expect me to become the next Zent, Sigiswald continued, interrupting his brother's plea with a calm smile. Thus, there is no one better suited to the task. Do you not agree, Anastasius? It would have to be someone with all elements, has to pray a lot. Shoot. What was the other? I think there was like 3 things. They had to be omni-elemental, they had to pray a ton, and offer up a ton of mana. Those, I think, were the qualifications to even have a chance at it. The second prince fell silent and cast his eyes down, having lost the will to speak. Sigiswald must have interpreted that as acquiescence, because he returned to addressing me with a wider smile. Though I will conform to the old ways, the blame for this invasion lies primarily with Arensbach. I do not agree with the royal family bearing the full weight of the burden. Brother, Anastasius cried. Certainly the sovereign knight commander's betrayal created this mess, but it was Ehrenfest and Dunkelberger who sprang into action to stop him. Does the fault not lie with those of Arensbach who failed to vanquish the Lanzanovians in their duchy? Should they not be punished before anyone in the royal family? Hey, Ferdinand did not do all this. He tried. He tried to set this up and stop it but he couldn't even do anything because he didn't have information. Hell no. Sigiswald punctuated his argument with a sharp look at Ferdinand, not even trying to be subtle. He genuinely seemed to believe that Ferdinand was to blame for not controlling Detlinde. How could... he wasn't even in charge. Detlinde hadn't even died the Foundation. It was her sister that did that, so she wasn't even in charge. What was he supposed to do? He did only what he could, essentially. And forestalling the invasion, I could tell that he was used to ordering others around and didn't expect anyone to challenge his words as the first prince. Yeah, you're gonna get it. His life up until this point, his experiences and the way he was raised had given him that mindset. Prince Sigiswald really doesn't know his place, does he? It is any way to act when he's trying to get a divine avatar's approval to serve as the next Zent. Still, I wasn't sure whether I could chastise him. My understanding of how royals thought and made decisions was flimsy at best. I glanced at Ferdinand, who was now wearing a dazzling smile. Uh-oh, he's out for blood! That's not good. Very well, he said. Arensbach is prepared to deliver you its prisoners. We shall transfer them to the sovereignty as soon as you give the word. In other words, if you want to punish them, hurry up and do it already. You're the only one we're waiting on. Books aside, nothing could convince me to oppose Ferdinand when he was this furious. Our good friend Sigiswald must have been especially courageous. He failed to sense the extreme malice seeping through Ferdinand's smile because he doesn't know Ferdinand smiles like that when he's pissed. But he must have understood the subtext. At the very least, he hesitated a little before continuing. I am referring not to the culprits themselves, but to you. Yeah, this is going to piss off Rosemine. It's got to be. Either that or Ferdinand's going to go off on this guy. But to you, Lord Ferdinand, who married... He's not married yet! Fuck you! who married into Ahrensbach to support the next Are you not aware of your own crimes? At last, there we go, it's Rosemine. It's Rosemine who's gonna snap. At last, something snapped inside of me. Siggiswald had failed his most basic duties as a prince. What gave him the right to disrespect someone who had moved to another duchy and worked his fingers to the bone at the demand of a royal decree? I wasn't about to let that slide. Oh, boy. Prince Siggiswald, did you just accuse Ferdinand of not carrying out his duties? The prince stared at me, surprised that I was getting involved. Uh-oh. I think Anastasius realizes what's about to happen. Anastasius, meanwhile, put his head in his hands and groaned. If he had wanted to spare his brother the embarrassment to come, he should have intervened when he had the chance. Yes. I continued. It was your family's royal decree that put Ferdinand to work in Ahrensbach before he could marry into the duchy. Before he could marry. He's not married into the duchy and acquire citizenship there. And even when his wedding was delayed, he was not granted the common courtesy of returning home. Those despicable actions were the reason he ended up poisoned and needed to rush into battle with little to no time to recover. Can you really claim that someone who gathered and commanded volunteers from 2 duchies, who contributed so much to a victory that even you admit saved Jürgen Schmidt, failed to carry out his duties? Thank you. Oh, someone's actually backing her up on this one. And it's not even Ferdinand or anybody in Ahrensfest. Wow. Lady Rosamund is correct, Dunkelfelger added. Lord Ferdinand smote the Landsenavian soldiers in Ahrensbach, chased away the Ahrensbach soldiers who invaded Ehrenfest, and then captured the Landsenavians attempting to obtain the Book of Messinora and the sovereignty. Considering that he was merely engaged to the future of Ahrensbach, not married to her, one could say he overperformed. Thank you! Someone actually agrees on this one. Any of my knights who fought alongside him will testify that he spared not even a moment to rest. Interesting, Siggiswald replied, but the look in his eyes was entirely unconvinced. Prince Siggiswald, I said, I must ask, while Lord Ferdinand was carrying out the duties thrust upon him by a royal decree, what were you and the rest of the royal family doing? Might I remind you that both Ehrenfest and Dunkelfelger warned you of the danger to come. If anyone had abandoned their obligations, it certainly hadn't been Ferdinand or me. The prince openly opposed the idea that the royal family was to blame, but again, what in the world had they been up to? Siggiswald merely twitched a little. Maybe my stern glare was overwhelming him. In any case, it gave me the perfect opportunity to hammer home my argument. Despite our warnings, the royals failed to notice Robert's betrayal, or the proliferation of Trug and the sovereignty. You were foolishly deceived into allowing the Landsenavians to obtain their staffs, then abandoned your duty to protect Jürgen Schmidt's foundation so you could hole up in the royal palace. Name one thing the lot of you achieved. I was there during the battle for the auditorium, doing whatever I could to fight back the invaders. Pray tell, Prince Siggiswald, where were you? As a prince, I was directing sovereign nobles from within my... He fell silent, unable to continue with my knowing smile. By deciding to remain in his villa, he had relinquished any claim to having defended Jürgen Schmidt. You were acting with your own safety in mind, having completely disregarded the country and its people. Zents and Obs have one duty, more crucial than any other, protecting their foundations. The moment you prioritized your villas, you failed as royals. Do you understand me? Rosemine, that's enough. No, let her keep going. Let her keep going. Let her keep going on this one. She needed to say it. Ferdinand warned me, lightly tugging on my sleeve. Your chastisement as a divine avatar is draining the life from the other royals. I cast my eyes around the room and saw that indeed the others looked extremely unwell. You have a point. However, their unreasonable demands and ridiculous expectations since the Civil War has caused so much more harm. Countless people lost their lives. A much worse fate than simply feeling a little sick. Let them pale in the face of their crimes. Is he going to stop her, or is he going to do something else? Ferdinand stood up and grabbed my arm. On closer inspection, he looked pale too. Oh, what's going on? Oh, is her emotions getting the best of her on this one? Is he crushing her? Are they crushing her? Is she crushing them? I cannot talk right. On closer inspection, he looked pale too, and there was urgency in his eyes that anyone would have noticed. Wait a second. Ferdinand looks just as disturbed as the royals. Rosamine, are you aware that your eyes have changed colors? He asked. Uh-oh. Do you realize the divine power radiating from your mana is swelling and crushing all those in the room? Oh, shoot. She didn't realize she was doing it, but then again, she's got so much freaking mana now that she sometimes can't even realize it. Especially with this being divine mana, too. I was angry with Sigilswald, but no, those things hadn't occurred to me at all. I guess the first prince's trembling wasn't because he felt ashamed of the misdeeds being thrust into his face. Nope, it's because he's getting crushed. Sorry. No, I replied, none of that was my intention. Charlcall slowly raised a hand, barely able to keep his breathing steady as he endured my crushing. Do you permit me to speak, Lady Rosamond? His polite request made Sigilswald once again look like he'd been struck by Verdrena's lightning. Go on, I said. Please forgive my foolish son for not realizing the severity of his misdeeds. In the first place, there is no need to take his thoughtless words into heart. We have already sworn not to punish Lord Ferdinand for any of the crimes Detland committed. Thank you. At least somebody sees reason on this one. The king's words brought me comfort, and now that he mentioned it, through my recollection was still clouded, I vaguely remembered the existence of such a promise. Ferdinand was going to be safe no matter what anyone said. Phew. I sighed in relief, and everyone else did too. They were free from my crushing at last. Damn it. What the fuck is wrong with my mouse? Okay. Oh! This is interesting. What's this title for? Goddess Daimana and name swearing. Ferdinand peered at my face, looking as serious as ever, then muttered that my eye color had returned to normal. I thought he would be glad, but some of the urgency in his expression remained. What was going on? Rosamond, it would seem you are less able to control your goddess Daimana. The divine power inside you swells when you get emotional. If it continues to grow, there is a chance you will cease to be yourself. Please control your feelings as well as you can. That thought alone sent a shiver down my spine. Could that mean losing even more of my memories? Or something even worse? Yeah, you better keep your emotions in control, girl. The severity with which Ferdinand spoke made me think I'd already started acting strangely in some way. God, that's terrifying! Fear swept over me, and that was all it took. Ah, shit! Is she doing it again? Ferdinand gasped and shouted, Rosamond! Out of the corner of my eye, I saw people grimace and clutch their chests, and groans rang out from all around me. I must have been crushing them again. Shit! It was emotions! Fear, anxiety, anger, happiness. All those emotions could cause if you don't keep it in control. I simply felt the pangs of anxiety. No, I didn't mean to, I stammered. My fear was hurting everyone in the room, which made me even more afraid of the divine power coursing through me. Come on. Calm down. Use a freaking... Use a face stone. Use a face stone to drain some of the mana, because you're not going to be able to do anything until she calms down. Control your emotions, Rosamond, Ferdinand said, grabbing me by the shoulders and turning me so I couldn't see everyone suffering. His face was twisted in pain, and sweat ran in rivulets down his brow. He's even getting it, too. Even he, of all people, was in too much agony to maintain a calm expression. Ferdinand, let go, I said. Being this close to me must make it hurt even more. He was precious to me, and the last thing I wanted to do was cause him pain. I smacked his hands in a desperate attempt to escape. Ferdinand couldn't even respond anymore. He merely choked in response. The sound stirred my memories, bringing to mind vague images of when I'd stood against him in the late High Bishop in the temple. I just finished my baptism and was trying to protect some people, but who was I protecting? She can't even remember her parents. Great. So it's Thule and her parents, at least, that she can't remember. But who was I protecting now? Though I was hurting those around me for no good reason. My body screamed at me to stop, but I didn't know how to control the power within me. Use the powers you've been gifted right and protect this city. I won't use them to do anything you'll get mad about, I promise. An old vow suddenly reappeared in my mind. It felt important somehow, and the fact that I'd now broken it made me so frustrated that I wanted to cry. I couldn't let my emotions spiral even further out of control, but I didn't know how to manage them. Please, Ferdinand, get away from me. I made a promise to someone, somewhere. I promised to use my powers to protect people, not hurt them. I could tell from Ferdinand's grim pallor that more and more divine power was leaking out of me. He spluttered and blood dripped from the corner of his mouth, once again reminding me of the past. Get away, I screamed, striking his hands before at last managing to wriggle out of his embrace. I shot to my feet and my chair tipped over with a loud clatter. How can I stop hurting anyone? How far do I need to run? You don't need to run anywhere, you just need to control your emotions. You need to calm down. I scanned the room looking for some way to escape. Sprinting in the corridor was an option, but the door was across the table from me. I would need to run past everyone, causing them even more pain in the process. You're not going to be able to get away without crushing anybody else even more. A door behind me led to the dormitory, but I would end up crushing everyone inside. I was caught between a rock and a hard place. Ferdinand gazed down at his hands, then wiped the blood from his mouth and turned to Sylvester. Aubert and Bess, permit Hartmann's group to enter. Get in here, Hartman, Sylvester exclaimed in ordnance. He sent it with one hand while clenching his chest with the other. Before the bird could possibly have finished delivering its message... Damn it. What the fuck is up with my mouse? The doors of the dormitory burst open. In came Hartman, Clarissa, Matthias, Lorenz, Roderick, and Gracia. Excuse me, Hartman said. No, everyone get away from... Fear not, Lady Rosewine. We are enveloped in your divine mana at all times. See, your heightened emotions do nothing but allow us to feel even greater Of course Hartman says that. Hartman then gave me a reassuring smile while he and the other men circled me, separating me from the rest of the room. They must have stopped my divine mana from reaching everyone else because the groaning soon came to an end. Knowing that the others were okay helped me ease my worries, and it doesn't look like Hartman and my other retainers are in pain. Hartman and Lorenz wore encouraging smiles. Roderick and Matthias looked extremely serious, but not because my divine power was hurting them. They were just determined to carry out their duty. Lord Ferdinand told us to wait outside in case we were needed, Clarissa explained, smiling so brightly that I almost thought she might start humming. We expected the overwhelming allure of your divinity to be too much for lesser beings to bear. I always wanted... Damn it. I always wanted to experience taking care of you like an attendant. She held up and spread out some silver cloth. Her bright smile eased the weight on my chest. I was glad to know that there were people I could be around without needing to worry about hurting them. The fear and isolation that had been welling up inside of me began to fade. Okay, calm down, girl. Whew. Lady Rosamund, Gracia said. Laisletta had the cloth fashioned into a cloak so you could wear it more discreetly. I shall put it on you now, though it is a shame to hide your new clothes. Gracia fastened the cloak around my shoulders, smoothing out any lingering creases, then wiped the last of the tears from my eyes. She normally worked in silence, so her attempt to calm me down meant she was stepping outside her comfort zone. It warmed my heart to see how much she cared. I thank you all ever so much. Oh, Lady Rosamund, you needn't feel grateful, Clarissa said. Your meeting will not be able to progress if everyone fainted in awe of your stunning new form. Not because of that, because of the crushing. Such is the fate of Messenora's avatar, who acts with the favor of such a... each of the... calm down. Hey. But don't do ranting on. Lord Ferdinand, how does it look? Gracia asked, interrupting Clarissa's sermon, leaving her face exposed will allow others to feel her divine mana without it overwhelming them. Ferdinand expected the cloak and nodded. That will do, thank you. Lady Rosamund, might you perform some divine healing to set rewards your considerate retainers? Hartman asked with a teasing wink. Despite his bantering tone, he was watching me like a hawk, searching for the slightest reaction. He had phrased it as a joke, so I could easily refuse if necessary. I thank you ever so much, Hartman. It is my honor. I cast a spell to form the Flutrin's staff and started reciting the relevant prayer. O Hellschmer's subordinate to Flutrin, the goddess of war. I would normally have said more, but that was enough for light to emerge from the staff's green face stone and rain down on everyone in the room. Oh, you didn't even have to finish the prayer! Wow! I'm guessing it's because it's divine mana this time? Color returned to the faces of everyone seated around the room, and they all gasped for air. The healing had worked. Ah, such beauty, Hartman cried. An act so holy could only ever be accredited to come to one with permission to use all the divine instruments. Hey, stop your sermon, sir. Good job, Sylvester interjected, waving away the overeager scholar. Everyone, drag Hartman back into the dormitory. We need to continue our meeting. So it was done. Hartman's earlier act of competence seemed to vanish as Matthias and Lorenz took him by the arms and Roderick urged him out of the room. Sylvester called an attendant to replace them, then requested some fresh tea for us all. Attention among us had finally dissipated. Please sit down, Lady Rosamund, Clarissa said. I nodded and let her escort me back to my seat. Gracia had already righted my chair for me. Oh. Before sitting down, I had made eye contact with Ferdinand. He had reached out to help me, only to have his hands callously smacked away. It was so awkward that I didn't know how to react. Ferdinand, your hands okay? Hellschmer did away with any aches I might have been feeling. There's no need to get upset so soon after your retainers calmed you down. Yeah, calm down, girl. It's okay. He's fine. He knows you were worried. He knows you were upset. And that you were having a hard time there, so it's fine. Vernon took my hand from Clarissa before gesturing for my retainers to step back as he sat me back down. I stared intently at his face to make sure he really was alright. Knowing him, he would claim to be fine even if my divine mana was still wearing him down. There's no need to fret, Ferdinand reassured me. Now that you have your cloak, there's no chance of your mana hurting anyone. Good. Why didn't you wear it from the start? I grabbed the silver cloth and squeezed it tight. I should have worn it from the start then. Ferdinand exchanged a bemused glance with Sylvester. Silver cloth invariably makes one think of the Lanzanavians, so wearing it when you first arrived at the meeting might have given the wrong impression. Now that everyone has experienced the power of your divine mana, however, not a single person will tell you to remove it. That might be true, but did you have to resort to something so drastic? There must have been a solution that didn't involve an entire room of people getting hurt. Ferdinand and Sylvester seemed to disagree, though. That reminds me, Ferdinand continued. Rosamund, hold out your hand. If you feel you are about to lose control of your divine mana again, use this. Did you plan countermeasures other than the silver cloth? Damn it. Ferdinand gave me a sound blocker and a white box. I went to open the latter to see what was inside, but it sucked out my mana and started turning into a white cocoon. Oh, nope. It sucked out my mana and started turning into a white cocoon. A namestone? I'd seen this happen enough times to know what I was looking at. It was a namestone. Ferdinand, what is the meaning of this, I asked. I need a way to reach you in the case of an emergency. No, he's talking about, like, if this happens again, and because anyone who is name sworn to you isn't affected by this like everybody else was. So if the worst comes to happen and he can't reach you, then he needs to be able to do that without getting crushed. Maybe so, but you could just call others like Sylvester did, or quiet, Ferdinand said, pinching my cheek. I pursed my lips. Name swearing isn't meant to be done, damn it, as some kind of surprise attack. It's supposed to be like a super important ceremony should you not understand its significance, considering how many have given their names to you. Several of my retainers had given their names to me, and not a single one of them had taken the decision lightly. Ferdinand must have known that much, especially when Eckert and the others in his retinue were so loyal to him, giving me his name purely out of convenience. I saw no reason to believe he wanted me to have it. It was like stomping on the sanctity of the vow. The more I thought about it, the sadder it made me. Keep it until the divinity fades from your mana, Ferdinand said. That is all I ask. Still, using it as a tool is just... Again, it will only be until your divinity fades. If you dislike it that much, then you can use the stone to order me to take it back. I don't want a master-servant relationship with someone who's basically family to me. Drawing that line had caused drastic changes in my relationship with Feline and Daniel. The relaxed air between us had vanished, along with any hope I had of becoming their friends. I didn't even want to think about the same thing happening with Ferdinand, and above all else, I didn't want to give him orders after seeing how bitter he was about the royal family messing him around. Give it up for now, Ferdinand said obstinately. You started it by exploiting name swearing to save my life. It will not be for long in any case. He took the sound blocker back from me and returned to his seat. It had been an emergency, but I couldn't exactly deny that I'd taken his name to begin with. That is true. I squeezed his name stone inside. Now then, is everyone ready to continue? Ferdinand asked once we had sipped our tea and dismissed our attendants. Sigistwall had declared that he was willing to become the Zent, so we picked up our discussion with whether he was a valid candidate. Does this mean Sigistwall will take the throne? Trollquail asked. He and Frida, his first wife, looked at Ferdinand with extreme concern. That sounds, If nobody else wants to volunteer, then yes. We want a royal to become the next Zent and shape Jürgenschmidt as the gods desire. If we have a viable candidate, we shall give them the crown. Sigistwall nodded. I am the obvious choice, as the entire country already recognizes me as its future king. You may rest assured, father. I shall take over as a Zent and save Jürgenschmidt. He wore his usual calm smile, though I couldn't quite understand why he was acting so proud. The role would require him to dismantle his own family's rule. In that case, I said, to ensure you faithfully carry out the will of the gods, we must have you swear an oath to the goddess of light and Jibordnung, the goddess of order, using contract magic, of course. Contract magic? Indeed. We cannot risk our new Zent ignoring the gods or postponing their demands indefinitely when my divine mana fades. Having them forge a binding agreement with the gods is the obvious solution. The prince's contract wouldn't be with me. Instead, he would make a vow to the gods, one much stricter than any sort of agreement between humans. There wouldn't be any loopholes to exploit, and any violations would be met with divine judgment. Ooh, Sigistwall went pale. Was he afraid of contract magic, or just shocked that he wouldn't be able to take advantage of us the moment he came into power? That's probably the last one, and the fact that he could possibly get smited for no reason. Oh-ho! Dunkelfelger smiled wryly. Anyone who agrees to carry out the gods' demands should expect to enter a contract with them. Indeed, his wife agreed. Perhaps the Zent could address the country's obs and outline his plans for Jürgenschmidt's future before he obtains his Gruterscheid, to ensure the duchies know what is expected of them. And with that, the magic contract was set in stone. Sigistwall balled his hands into tight fists atop the table. If he agreed to make a vow to the gods, our discussion could move on to the newly christened transference ceremony. From there, we could outline how the way the royals will be treated, how the currently deposed duchies will be divided, and so on. There is still much to be decided. As I wondered what we would deliberate first, Ferdinand suddenly stood up. Prince Sigiswald, as I am sure you now understand, the next Zent will need to endure a tremendous amount of pressure when they stand atop the altar and receive the Grudershite from the divine avatar of Messinora. If you wish to take the throne, then I must ask that you give your name to Rosemine. Doing so will nullify the impact of her divine mana on you. Damn it. The first prince blinked. It certainly would be problematic if the new Zent collapsed midway through receiving his Grudershite, unable to bear my accidental crushing. Who said she'd be crushing, though? That said, I really don't like using name swearing for this kind of thing. This is exactly what Grandfather warned me about. Well, I mean, all you would have to do would be to give your name to whoever does it, to give their name to you, and then once the ceremony is over, give it back. You know? It would just be for that ceremony. Me? Give my name? Sigiswald asked, grimacing in disbelief. Do you genuinely expect the new Zent to accept subservience to someone soon to become the next Ob Ahrensbach? The very idea is unthinkable. Dude, would you rather accidentally get rid of... Would you like to do the crushing again? Because that might happen during the ceremony. Because you'd be right next to her. The prince was speaking for his own sake, but he was completely right. Expecting the Zent to give his name to a mere Ob was absurd. Still, Ferdinand declared that he could not trust the royal family unless they agreed. I'm fine with them just signing a contract with the gods, but whatever. Charlcoal suddenly raised a hand, a bitter expression on his face. Yes, King Charlcoal, I asked. Lady Rosemine, my deepest apologies for the disturbance I'm about to cause. He rose from his seat, then bound the first prince with bands like, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, what's going on here? Charlcoal, what are you doing? Okay, what's going on? Is he because he's not doing it? I saw bitter tears in the king's eyes as he continued. By all rights, Sigiswald, we should already have been executed, yet we have been given this chance to live, and to receive the Grudershite from a divine avatar of the gods. Your refusal to grant her your name and commit to her demands makes you unqualified to succeed the throne, as does your displeasure about signing a contract with the gods. Oh! He's upset because his son is kind of hesitant about this. Open your eyes to what the rest of us saw long ago. I understand that your upbringing in a royal family that needed to persist without the Grudershite has colored your view of the world, but your attempts to cling to the status we no longer have are unbearably foolish and painful to witness. Rolfrida cast her eyes down and said nothing. Verna gazed down at the restrained Sigiswald and then at Charlcoal. May I conclude that you have decided not to allow Prince Sigiswald to become the next Zent? As he is now, I doubt he will meet the gods' criteria, the king replied, hanging his head. He will only earn more of their ire. So, you're okay with all this stuff, so why can't you do it, dude? Nobody spoke in the first prince's defense. He remained motionless as everyone silently agreed with his father. Oh, ooh. Let's see. How long have I been recording for? Dang it, I want to continue! That was a long one! No, that was actually a couple chapters. I'll keep going. Finalizing the new Zent. Though this burden might be too great for Prince Sigiswald to bear, someone from the royal family must become the Zent for you all to be spared the ivory tower, Ferdinand said. Knowing that, do you stand by this decision? Charlcoal paused in thought. He gazed down at the bound prince and his wife and other children, and then slowly knelt. Even now that my mind has been cleansed, in fact, now more than ever, I sincerely believe that only someone who has obtained the Grudershite under their own power deserves to be the Zent. You ascend to the altar and disappear with the divine avatar of Messinora. Do you not have it, Lord Ferdinand? Father, what are you saying? The king's use of a title, coupled with his kneeling before Ferdinand, stirred all those present. He knows! He must have realized that Ferdinand's got to have gotten the Grudershite. The royals looked between the pair, while Ob Dunkelfelger and his wife watched Ferdinand closely to gauge his reaction. As expected, even Dunkelfelger suspects Ferdinand of having the Book of Messinora. King Charlcoal, does that mean you would not mind the entire royal family being locked up? Ferdinand asked calmly. Instead of answering the question, he's essentially gauging to see what he would think. If he says he's okay with that, then Ferdinand would take over. Anastasia stood up with a clatter, his face pale as could be. Please stop, father. You are the Zent. You needn't kneel before anyone but the divine avatar. A true Zent must wield a Grudershite. Rosemine will give us one. I want you to have it and continue your reign. I already asked as much of them. You have done more to keep... Dang it. Done more to keep this country together than any other person alive. So how could anyone else be better suited to the role? Is he omni-elemental? All he would have, if he is, then all he would have to do would be to pray endlessly and offer mana to the foundation and do all that to be able to get to the Gruchashite. Anastasius tried to pull Trollclaw to his feet, but the king merely shook his head. I watched their emotional exchange for a moment, then sighed and cast my eyes on Ferdinand. Congratulations, it went exactly as you expected. It was almost like watching a play I'd already read the script for. I couldn't help feeling bad for Trollclaw, but Ferdinand didn't intend to be honest with him. King Trollclaw, he said, if you will forgive my rudeness, there is a serious misunderstanding at play here. The requirement for ascending the altar is not having the Gruchashite, but having divine protections from all the primary gods. That is correct, Eglantine announced, drawing all eyes to herself. Nobody had expected her to interject. I, too, climbed the altar after performing the divine protections ritual in class. I was taken to the White Plaza where I obtained my stat, but there was nothing of note there, and of course I do not have the Gruchashite. The requirements are being omni-elemental and obtaining the divine protection of each primary god, I added, since Eglantine had stolen my line of the script. The king's eyes widened. Being able to ascend the shrine wasn't proof of having the Gruchashite. Hearing it from Eglantine had done more to convince him than anything I might have said. But even so, Lord Ferdinand, indeed, Eglantine said, he pointed us toward the Gruchashite in the first place, so he either has it or stopped just before obtaining it. She's not wrong. The pair looked at Ferdinand. I could tell from their eyes that they both wanted to know whether he had the Gruchashite, but there were nuances to their expressions. Eglantine seemed curious, whereas Trollclaw was outright desperate. Prince Sigiswald truly is your son, Ferdinand told the king, staring down at him contemptuously. The likeness is uncanny. Is that a compliment or an insult in this situation? Everyone's expression changed, mostly for the worse. Nobody would interpret such words as praise when Trollclaw had just moments ago described his son's behavior as unbearably foolish and painful to witness. Magdalena's sharp red eyes bore holes into Ferdinand. In what ways do you think the two resemble one another? I would say physically, but probably not in this case. To begin with, their tendencies to forget everything inconvenient to them and use their royal authority to make demands of others. Prince Sigiswald learned it from his father, I suspect. But this is not all. I see now that you fell victim to the goddess of chaos's curse, Lady Magdalena. Huh? Having dismissed Magdalena as someone blinded by love, Ferdinand sneered at Trollclaw. You seem to have forgotten this, so allow me to repeat it. I do not desire a rebellion, nor do I wish to become the Zent. Was that not clear when I agreed to marry into Arensbach, or was that year and a half spent slaving away with my life on the line for nothing? Sylvester's hands tightened into fists. So intense was his anger that he would probably have lunged at Trollclaw if he could. I determined that it would be to be the best decision at the time, Trollclaw forced out. You determined it best to essentially banish him to another duchy, Sylvester finally snapped. And now you want to force him to take the throne because you think he has the Gruchashite despite having zero evidence to reinforce that claim? How can you honestly believe he should not only restore Arensbach, but also clean up the mess your family made? It is far too early to accept a visit from Schlaftrom. Sylvester had essentially said, if you're going to spew nonsense, don't speak at all. My knowledge of euphemisms had come in handy once again. Seeing him confront the king of all people, and with a broad smile on his face, made it abundantly clear that he was Ferdinand's older brother. Oh, I love this. Still, I didn't realize King Trollclaw also had a tendency to forget whatever he found inconvenient. Sylvester and the king were engaged in an aggressive staring contest. The former wanted to stop the royals from exploiting Ferdinand any longer, whereas the latter wanted to do what was best for Jurgensmith no matter the personal cost. A gentle voice interrupted their tense exchange. Lord Ferdinand, may we proceed with the understanding, then, that you have no intention of obtaining the Gruchashite or becoming the Zent? You do not plan to accept the king's proposal, do you? It was Eglantine. She wore a pleasant smile and sat with a hand resting quizzically on her cheek, but her bright orange eyes were deadly serious. King Trollclaw, as I said, as he continued to plead, I do not think you are wrong to want a Zent who obtain the Gruchashite through their own power. We intend to spread the means to obtaining the Book of Messinora so that future Zents can be chosen from those who successfully acquire it. However, for us to reach that point, I need someone in the royal family to take the reins for just one more generation. I focused my attention on Adolphine, Eglantine, and Magdalena. Two of them had only recently married into the royal family, and the third rarely had a chance to socialize due to being a third wife. I didn't think any of them had committed crimes that would warrant them spending the rest of their lives in an ivory tower. In all senses, I concluded, the changes we seek to implement are more likely to be accepted if we introduce them gradually rather than all at once. The greater a change, the more resistance it will inspire. Not a single noble will complain if the Zend has the Grudgeshite, Trorakal said. I shook my head. He only thought that because he had spent a decade being relentlessly labeled as a false king. You have defied the Grudgeshite to an unreasonable degree. Oh, deified. Even a Zend who has one or their own Book of Messinora will not be immune from criticism. Humans will always find reasons to be upset. The capacity for suffering has no bounds. I want there to be as little friction and as few disputes as can be. But the transition will never be perfectly smooth. History has made that more than apparent. I turned my head, having felt an intense glare midway through my speech. Eggleston was staring right at me. Yes, I asked. She lowered her eyes, then directed them at Trorakal. I could sense her determination. The Grudgeshite is absolutely necessary for Jurgen Smith's future, she said. To that end, I once thought it essential that we adopt Lady Rosemine into our family and engage her to Prince Siggiswald so she could obtain the Grudgeshite and give it to us without issue. Anastasius wouldn't have agreed to marry me. He had given up on the throne specifically for Eglantine, and trying to wed me to Hildebrand will most likely have caused another war. Possibly. However, she continued, as a result of the recent incident, Lady Rosemine can now grant the royal family the Grudgeshite as a divine avatar of Messinora. We have no need to adopt her or marry her to Prince Siggiswald. King Trorakal, this is your chance to obtain the Grudgeshite without causing any disputes, should you not take it. That's the thing, though, is he omni-elemental? If he's omni-elemental, he was able to get to the altar, he prays a ton, offers a ton of mana, then he may be able to obtain the Grudgeshite. Anastasius gazed optimistically at Trorakal, as did the king's wives and Adolphine, who had married into the royal family. Trorakal, however, obstinately shook his head. My stance will not change, he said. The throne must go to someone who has obtained the Grudgeshite under their own power. I should not remain the Zend any longer. Can't you not just go try to get it? Dude! If you don't meet the criteria, you don't meet the criteria, that's fine. Like, if he's not omni-elemental, then there's no chance, no reason for him to even try, you know? But if he's omni-elemental, then shouldn't he at least try to go get it? Then he would have been a Zend who had gotten the Grudgeshite under their own power. Hello? I see, Eglantine replied. Then I understand your position as well. She encouraged the king to return to his seat, then shot me a look of resolve. Lady Rosemine, I wish to take the throne. So Eglantine is going to try and take the throne in this one, I guess. Unless something else pops up. I shall give you my name and make the necessary vow to the gods. In return, I ask to be given to the Grudgeshite. Eglantine, Anastasius muttered, staring at his wife in a daze. I cannot let the country descend into another war, she said with a smile, though I admit it would have been ideal for Prince Siggiswald to receive the Grudgeshite. As the heir apparent, he was best suited to implement slow and gradual change. Eglantine had wanted Siggiswald to wield the Grudgeshite and revive the old methods, paving the way for a worthy successor to take his place, while the rest of the royals devoted themselves to serving as Obs. But alas, the first prince had been deemed unsuitable for the role. She continued, though his reign will most likely have been shorter than the first prince's, and thus a greater cause for concern, had the king desired the Grudgeshite, I would have considered it a suitable reward for his years of anguish. Despite not having a Grudgeshite, Trorakal had fought as best he could to keep the country alive. Eglantine says she would have supported him if only he had striven to serve Jurgen as a proper Zend and changed the country as per the gods' wishes. Anastasius and Prince Hildebrand do not have divine protections from all the primary gods, meaning they cannot ascend the altar with Lady Rosemine. They had to be excluded from the start. Anastasius and Hildebrand grimaced with regret. Not being able to climb the altar had proven fatal to their chances of taking the throne. They had not been born omni-elemental. Oh, so they aren't omni-elemental. Okay. And there was no time for them to circle the shrines and pray until they obtained all the divine protections that they needed. Though, in Anastasius' case, that was because he spent so much time helping Prince Siggiswald obtain his protections, helping to prove that he had no intention of stealing the throne. Eglantine gave her husband a consoling smile, then turned to Ferdinand. If Lord Ferdinand had wanted to be the Zend, whether he had the Grudgeshite or not, I would not have volunteered. I see no merit in war, especially one waged against a man the divine avatar loves. Wait, what? Loves? No! God! Oh, God. This girl... I'm assuming that she does. She just doesn't realize it because this whole idea of love in this world is so different from her idea of love in her world that she doesn't realize it. Someone's jumping to conclusions. I glanced at Ferdinand, debating whether I should interrupt Lady Eglantine's teasing smile to correct her. Her eyebrows were low his eyebrows were low over his eyes. On the surface, it seemed to be his usual stony countenance, but I could tell it was a face he pulled when he was genuinely displeased. Correcting her would probably be ideal. Lady Eglantine, I said, Ferdinand is like family to me. If you think there are romantic feelings between us, then you are mistaken. He might be willing to endure a political marriage or the like, but he would never accept romantic love in the sense you mean. You say that, but would he actually agree? Everyone stared at me at a complete loss for words. Their eyes practically screamed, are you being serious right now? It suddenly felt like everyone knew something I didn't. You probably are right about that. You probably don't even realize it, girl, like I said. I'm right. Aren't I, Ferdinand? I exclaimed, reaching out and pulling on his sleeve. Let us dispel these misconceptions together. Oh, God. Is he gonna say something completely different that nobody was expecting, especially her? Because, as I know, he's been setting up this whole thing ever since she came and saved him to set her up as saying, yeah, she's mine. Back off. But does he actually feel that way, or is it just to keep both of them safe, essentially? Does he actually feel that way? Is the question. Ferdinand endured several aggressive tugs before a displeased grimace appeared on his face. It made no sense. He had taught me that letting a misunderstanding fester was the same as supporting it. Which means he's supporting it, dude! So one had to intervene even when it was tedious. Oh ho, is she right? Sylvester asked? Of course he would ask that. Sylvester was one of the people that actually said that they should be together. Back in the beginning, before when he first came back into the political scene. And why are you getting involved? Ferdinand replied. As your older brother and her adoptive father, I consider it my right to know. What, is he wrong as in it's his right to know, or is he wrong in what he's saying? Is she right? Well, you are wrong. Sylvester grinned, but Ferdinand returned a smile that did not reach his eyes. His talent for glaring while looking otherwise unbothered wasn't as impressive as always. My apologies, Eglantine said. I chose my words poorly. I wished only to stress that if Lord Ferdinand had wanted the throne, I would not have volunteered. Indeed, Eglantine is correct, Ferdinand added, urging her to continue while gesturing to me to sit back down. You stray too far from the matter at hand, Rosamine. In retrospect, I really shouldn't have dwelled on my relationship with Ferdinand. Our discussion was about shaping the very future of Jürgen Schmidt. He probably hadn't said anything about the misunderstanding because he knew it would only delay us. And yet that would only foster people thinking that she was in love with him and that he was okay with it. Oopsie. No, I apologize for interrupting in the first place, I said. Please continue. If our more suitable candidates would rather not take the throne, then it falls upon me. Ob Ehrenfest suggested the royal family must clean up its own mess, and I agree. It would not be right to force the burden on anyone else. I am also a mother. If possible, I would rather live with my daughter than spend my days in a cell apart from her. Wait, what? Her daughter? When did this happen? Well, obviously they ain't gonna tell you because, with Florencia, they had to keep it quiet, keep it under wraps. So only those close to Eglantine and the others would have known about it. So of course you don't know. My eyes widened in surprise. I wasn't sure when she'd gotten pregnant or given birth, but the timing of her marriage told me her daughter was still quite young. I didn't realize Lady Eglantine was a mother. In that case, becoming an Ob or the Zent or whatever would indeed be much better than living apart in an ivory tower. We can expect Lady Eglantine's daughter to be omni-elemental and a prime candidate to become the next Zent, I remarked. As long as Prince Anastasius has resolved to support his wife, I see no reason not to grant her the Gutschheit. Anastasius eyed me cautiously. Support her in what sense? He needn't be so concerned, though. I was referring to the same expectations fate placed upon a female Ob's husband. You will need to carry out the duties of the Zent in Lady Eglantine's stead when she is pregnant and on maternity leave. To that end, the two of you will not be able to have any more children until you can take her place. That is, until you have attained the divine protections of all the primary gods. It should not take you long if you circle the shrines with a glut of rejuvenation potions. To support the Zent, one needed only to become omni-elemental. Having one's own Book of Massanora was by no means necessary. We kind of already saw that. I wanted to encourage Anastasius to do his best for Eglantine. His cheek twitched for some reason, but still, he would do anything for his beloved wife and daughter. He would. I trusted that he would go to any lengths to grant Eglantine's wishes. If we agree that Lady Eglantine should become the Zent, then we will start by hiding the royal family's crimes as best we can, I said. Could we conceal the fact that Prince Hildebrand obtained his staff and pretend it never happened? Magdalena stared at us in surprise. I continued, it seems unfair to further punish the third prince when everyone else in his family will get to bury their crimes and continue to live as nobles, however hard those lives might be. Could we turn his bracelets into a ring that serves the same purpose, allowing his staff to be sealed until the time comes for him to obtain it with his classmates? His retainers could modify the bracelets to make that an option, but Ferdinand gave me a sharp look that forced me to avert my eyes. You are as overly lenient as ever. I mean, she's not wrong. If they're trying to bury the royal family's crimes so the people won't know about it while they get all this stuff together, shouldn't Prince Hildebrand get the same treatment? Turn to the rest of the room. Indeed, as Rosemont suggests, there is much room for compassion when it comes to the third prince. In addition to his youth, he was most likely isolated from the chain of communications, and none of the adults around him ever thought to be on guard against Roblet. It would not be fair for a mere child to face punishment when those in his family who knew better are being allowed to wipe the slate clean. His crimes, at least, can go unseen. Thank you. Everyone remained silent as Ferdinand gazed upon Magdalena. There was a more critical glint in his eyes. Lady Magdalena, we cannot be surprised that a young child trusted the words of the Knight Commander, when even his retainers were fooled. That said, had he understood the quality of staffs and why the age for obtaining them was raised, he would not have been so foolish as to commit this crime in the first place. Third prince or no, I must conclude that you failed with his education. Hildebrand paled while Magdalena cast her eyes down. That is correct, she said. I did not educate him as well as I should have. Wait, what? I told Prince Hildebrand why the curriculum was changed when we were in the Underground Archive. I even said as much to Ferdinand when we were interrogating Alstead. I cocked my head at Ferdinand. Was he trying to spare Hildebrand some of the blame by attributing as much fault as he could to the adults? I certainly wasn't going to correct him this time. Doing so would force him to respond that the prince was more foolish than he thought and push the conversation toward making the punishment even harsher. Instead, I took another approach. Worry not, Ferdinand. Lady Eglantine becoming the Zent means King Trollcold can become an Ob. The royal family will soon cease to exist, and if we encourage Prince Hildebrand to learn from Dunkelfelger, I am sure he could still grow into a fine Archduke candidate. Lestalot and Hannelore were both exceptionally above average Archduke candidates. And as Magdalena was from Dunkelfelger, I saw no reason why she wouldn't be able to remedy the prince's poor education going forward. Lady Rosemine, Hildebrand muttered, clearly anxious. Would you support me becoming a Zent in the future? If you're able to get all the qualifications, I wouldn't see a problem with it. It seemed next to impossible for Hildebrand to obtain the Book of Massanora, but there was nothing wrong with providing a little motivation. I opened my mouth to say that I would, only to be cut short by Ferdinand. Enough, he said. You cannot show favoritism while here as a divine avatar of Massanora. Young though the prince might be, he must be told the truth. I was being lectured without even having said anything. I understand what you mean, but is it really necessary to crush his dreams in front of everyone? Is it not more cruel to give him false hope? How long would you let him go before revealing that he aspires to the impossible? The impossible, Hildebrand repeated, his eyes widening. Ferdinand refused to mince his words. The staff you obtained is no better than those of the old generation. The next generation's Zent would need to secure the Book of Massanora through their own power. Once the method for acquiring it and the importance of prayer were spread during the Archduke Conference, the younger students would no doubt start dedicating themselves to compressing their mana and procuring more elements before their third year. Compared to the staffs they would obtain, one obtained before even entering the Royal Academy would be of awfully low quality. Ferdinand continued, in your case, Prince Hildebrand, if you overcompress your mana or pray too much, your mana will exceed your staff's capacity and become impossible to control. Rose might experience the same problem after performing the Divine Protection ceremony in her third year. But she seems okay now, Hildebrand replied. There must be a way. Rosemine was omni-elemental to begin with, and able to enter the shrines of the primary gods. The same cannot be said for you. Even as you grow, your staff's capacity... Dang it. Goddamn. Will remain severely limited, a most crippling blight on your future as a noble. The hardships this will cause you are the unseen burden you will need to carry for the rest of your life. Hildebrand scrunched up his face on the verge of tears. In other words, I can't become a Zent? No. You will understand why if you learn the ancient language and read the documents in the underground archive. In the past, students obtained their staffs during their final year, and those who did not pray enough to obtain the divine protections of all the primary gods were unable to take the throne. You obtained your staff before gaining all the elements, so the same is true for you. The third prince hung his head, overcome with despair. His mother and father furrowed their brows in frustration, but they weren't the only ones. Dunkelfelger's archducal couple looked just as regretful. Oh, I don't want to stop. But I got to. I'll see you guys in the next one.